Saturday morning, it's time for the Experts program here on Power Talk, and that means Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, is back with us once again. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. Going to be a great weekend. Lots going on around the area, and we've got a little bit of talking about right to repair. This is a really fascinating topic, and when I first heard about right to repair, and it's really an issue that crosses a lot of fields. For example, I know a guy who owns a transmission shop in Salinas, and we were talking about this. I said, well, where does your business come from? And he said, for the most part, he is by default only working on late model cars and older classic cars, because in the last 10 years, the auto manufacturers have made it virtually impossible for independent shops to work on their transmissions. One of the things that they do is they will design them in such a way that a specific tool is designed to either open it or work on a part of that particular transmission. And then in order to get that tool, it's sometimes a $300 tool, and it's only good for that car, that transmission. So you can do the math pretty fast, and all of the auto manufacturers are doing this. And what it is it's an attempt to deprive the independent shops of potential business and force all the end users, the car buyers, to only use the dealer networks that have purchased those tools.
Yeah, and it's, the same thing in the tech world. This all started really because people were getting frustrated that they couldn't fix their own iPhones or couldn't hire third parties to fix their iPhones, that they had to go into, the Apple store and pay Apple to do it. And they thought, well, I should be able to do this on my own. And so finally, President Biden last week signed an order for asking the Federal Trade Commission to crack down on these restrictions that the tech industry and other industries like the auto industries are placing on their products to make it impossible or very difficult for third-party repairers to be able to do things for consumers that maybe at a lesser price. And I think this is going to be a great move forward. It will force companies in the tech space and in other industries to really create products that can be worked on, and that they have to provide a supply chain of sorts so that they can provide parts and things to let whoever wants to fix things.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that some iPhones, third-party shops, independent shops, can open them and change the battery on them. I don't know how much other work they can do, but I guess if you can get inside the phone, you ought to be able to work on it. And earlier this year, I had the battery in my iPhone die, and the phone was basically a brick. I couldn't use it till I got a new battery put in it. So I contacted Apple, in the Apple store at Del Monte, and they said, yeah, we can change the battery for you. And I think it was like around $80, but they gave me a repair date 3 weeks out. And well, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do for 3 weeks? I'm not going to have a telephone. So there's a third-party shop in Monterey that does these repairs, puts the batteries in them. Now, the price was essentially the same. It was like $70. But I asked the guy, when can I get my phone worked on? And he says, bring it down tomorrow at 2 p.m. and you'll have it back by 2:30. Okay, so there wasn't that much difference between his price and the Apple store's price. But the fact that Apple wanted me to expected me to just wait for 3 weeks without a telephone was ridiculous in and of itself. And all we're talking about doing, for God's sakes, you're replacing a battery, and you're going to tell someone they have to wait 3 weeks to put a new battery in their phone? Give me a break.
Yeah, and that's really what this new executive order that Biden signed is intended to do, is really just free up consumers to make choices that they're restricted from making, because so much of the consumer market is now consolidated into a relatively small number of companies. If you think of the tech space, or you think of the power of Amazon, or the power of car dealers or car manufacturers, somebody has to stand up for the consumer. And I think this is a good first step in that regard.
Absolutely. I guess the other thing you can look at that's similar to this in a way, and it's not really a right to repair issue, but it gets to the issue of tech companies operating in a predatory manner. And there's no better example of that than what they charge for replacement ink cartridges for, say, the old style printers that use the ink cartridges. You'll buy a printer for $35, and then you discover that a new ink cartridge is going to be $50. And they've got the market designed in such a way that you can really only purchase the ink cartridges from whomever manufactured, whatever company made that printer for you, whether it's HP or Canon or Epson or what have you. They all play the same game.
Yep. And they also, if you have a new printer or a new copier, they tell you that your warranty will be voided if you use some third-party cartridge or toner, because they want to control that market. And the fear of you having to go look for a warranty repair 6 months down the road keeps you from drifting away from using their products, which are usually much more expensive than some of the other third-party products that are out there.
After getting stung on this the first time I bought a printer and understanding how the game was played, the last 2 times I've purchased printers, before I bought the printer, I went to see the store that I was buying the printer from. Okay, what are they charging for the cartridges? And I thought, well, it might be better to pay a little more for a printer up front if they have cheaper price cartridges, because that'll save you money in the long run. And then I looked to see if there were any third-party printer cartridges. For example, if you go to Walmart and they have their own brand called ONN, where they make their own printer cartridges. Now, the price isn't, I believe, as an example, it's like $5 to $7 less than, say, you have a Canon printer and you buy an ONN cartridge for it. It's like $5 to $7 less than the $50 cartridge that, say, Canon sells you. So you're still paying a good chunk of money for it, but it's a little better deal. But I did notice that it works with the print head, and it also works with the sensor that tells you how much ink is left in the cartridge. Whereas when I took my empty cartridges to Costco, when they were filling them, I discovered that half the time the cartridges didn't work, and the sensor never worked. So that was that was wasted money down the drain.
Well, now you have a solution now.
So the right to repair, I can see this spreading across more platforms than just technology. Like I say, you can see this going into the area of auto repair and a number of other areas because when you talk to technology people or even people that are involved in any sort of maintenance of equipment that has been manufactured in the last decade, and it doesn't matter what it happens to be, I hear farmers talking about issues with tractors, that the dealers are prohibiting independent shops from working on those tractors, and that they're actually trying to stop the farmers from even doing the work themselves on their own tractors. We're seeing this all across the economy, and it's just a myriad of different types of products where the manufacturers have decided that they're going to have this predatory practice to essentially corner the market on repair at very inflated prices and then drive out the small competitors.
Yeah, and that everybody dreams, of all these industries dream of creating a method of generating recurring revenue, and that's one way to do it, right? Make it difficult, if not impossible, to have people fix their own things and force you to go back to them to get supplies and repairs.
All right. Well, we'll see where this right to repair goes and how it fares with the FTC and how serious they really are about cracking down on this and opening up the playing field to more competitors. So an interesting story to keep an eye on nonetheless.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest. Online, you'll find them at alvareztg.com, at AlvarezTG. That's the Twitter handle. And Luis, how about that telephone number for the I-Team?
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.